On this premiere 2018 edition of Ourlads Guide to the 2018 NFL Draft, Dan Shanka will help you prepare for the East-West Shrine Game with analysis on the top players participating in the game to keep an eye on for the NFL Draft, including the nation's sack leader, Joe Osman, Northwestern's all-time leading rusher, Justin Jackson, two-time Walton Payton Award winner, Jeremiah Briscoe of South Dakota State, and much more. As Ourlads Guide to the 2018 NFL Draft with Dan Shanka on the Ourlads Football Radio Network starts now. All right, it's Friday, the 19th of January, 2018. I'm Greg DePalma. You're listening to the Ourlads Football Radio Network, where it's never too early to think about the NFL Draft. And welcome to another season of NFL Draft Talk with Ourlads GM and National Scout Dan Shanka. So, Dan, good to talk to you again from the site of the East-West. You're in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's that time of year. Boy, just deja vu, right? You go through this every year. How's it catching up to you going there every year? What are the main differences you're finding out as you're there? New people, new faces always to meet and greet?
Right. So I say it's absolutely great with the players and everything. They like to see the new flow of players coming in and see how they respond athletically and everything. And then, of course, visiting with the scouts. And I really don't ask them much about players because I'll probably know more about some than they do. But, because they're area guys. Some, like, if the guy's an area guy, he won't know what's going on in, the West Coast, or if he's in the Midwest or something like that. But had good feedback from different, just visiting with general managers and things like that, just in general, nothing specific really. But my thing is, Bob Quinn with the Detroit Lions, I encouraged Bob to take, face on the corner from Virginia Tech. Because,
okay.
He wants to get into medical school, and I'd give him three doctors, potential doctors, I guess, the guys are going to go to medical school on his team with Jake Rudock from Michigan, and then of course Zach Zenner from South Dakota State, and now we got Faison in there who he wants to be a thoracic surgeon. So,
nice.
Hey, those guys could have pretty good practice up there in Detroit,
Sure, they won't even. They can take. If somebody gets hurt, they can stand away. Give me some room.
They go to work.
Yep, I'll take care of it.
Teams that have three doctoral. I guess it's not doctoral candidates. It's because it's the real thing.
That's right.
And but have three physicians on your football team. But anyway, it's down the road for those guys because I think, hey. They're probably looking at 10-year plans, when they get into medical school.
Yeah, and of course, this is the type of game that really helps the players get an understanding of where they fit in at the next level. And the practices, you've been able to watch the practices obviously all week. And what do the kids get out of this more than anything when they come here? And of course, they're coming from all different levels. Well, they come from a couple different levels. They come from all different conferences, all different parts of the country, different coaching staffs and schemes. So, how different is it for all these players when they come in here? Are their heads always spinning, or is it just all depend on how they've been coached and how well the coaches were that were under their guidance for several years?
Well, that's a very good point because a guy like Damon Gibson, for instance, from Minnesota State Moorhead, here's a guy that was coached by a graduate assistant in college at a Division II level, and then he comes, here being coached by NFL coaches, and his head's spinning, but he caught the ball well, and plus it's kind of a position change because he was a wide receiver there. He's a big guy. He's 6'3" and change, about 239. And so he's, it could be a H-back, tight end on certain teams and things. But, he didn't miss a snap. He got in there, and he's been learning and studying at night. And they spent a lot of time with him. But, he's not alone because on his own team, there's a Canadian, Regis Bosu, and he's another big guy but that he's a wide receiver that's 6'3" and change and about 235 pounds, but or a slot guy, I guess, where those guys are kind of learning together. And the thing that I noticed in practice yesterday was how much those guys improved from day one. It's just been dramatic. And so
that's what you want to see.
Yep. And that's the thing. A lot of these guys, but very few of them, even though, say, for instance, they may be a few guys in pro, in pro type offense stuff, that the terminology and things is new to them. But hey, the quarterbacks and different guys certainly pick things up quickly.
Speaking of quarterbacks, of course, there are 6 there. 5 will play in the game because Quentin Flowers will be unable to play in the game. So out of those 5 quarterbacks are there. By the way, the one quarterback that I mentioned at the Open, we talked about him before. One of the scouting section shows is Jeremiah Briscoe of South Dakota State. He broke the FCS record, single season touchdown passing record, 57 passes for the season, back-to-back Walter Payton Award winner in the FCS. Got an opportunity to see him play in the playoffs and the semifinals. What do you think about what you've seen so far? Are we looking at a guy that, do you think he has a shot to be a good backup in the NFL? Is that where you're looking? Is he like a mid to late round draft pick?
Well, Omaha. He's from Sam Houston, not South Dakota State.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about okay.
He's from Sam Houston State, but no, I tell you what. In fact, I visited with him today on the elevator and asked him how he thought his week was going, and he said, he's learning a lot. He thought some things were going well, and like he didn't know this, but of course I watched him, in all practices and on tape, and he's been a little bit erratic, not as sharp at times, just a little bit inconsistent. I wanted to see him be a little bit sharper, and I encouraged him to throw the ball to Jake Winicky from South Dakota State.
And there's the guy.
Jake, boy, when they throw it to him, he catches Jake ended up in college, he was measured at 6'3", which is a little under 6'4", and then he gets here and he is measured at over 6'4".
Wow.
So
that's big.
He's a big target and has really caught the ball well this week. But I think that my guess is Briscoe will probably be a very late draft choice. Because there's so many quarterbacks this year. And, he's going to probably be a practice squad guy, from what I saw and things. And it depends on the team. But, I think that's what we're looking at.
Now, when you see a guy like a lot of these quarterbacks that come out, the guys like Briscoe that go late or don't even get drafted, and then, and I mean, look, this doesn't happen very often, but then you get a guy like Case Keenum who makes it. And it's a great story, and it's great to see. What are those differences? Like, how does a guy like Case Keenum make it?
Well, obviously, he was an overnight sensation after being in the league for 6 years or so. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
The type of thing where he just, he's learned from a lot of different places he's been at. He was with the Rams last year, and he's bounced around a lot of places, and it's a credit to him how hard he works. And my hat's off to him because now he's actually going to beat Mahomes as the first air raid quarterback to do something in the National Football League. And boy, he had gangbusters this year. I mean, he's just been tremendous. And you could probably put him in the top 5 of the most valuable candidate, most valuable player candidate.
Sure,
this year.
absolutely.
So,
yeah.
I mean, he's been that good, and he's been leading that team. So, especially they beat the Eagles this weekend, and they go to the Super Bowl. I'll tell you, he's just done a tremendous job.
As far as the quarterbacks are concerned, who's impressed you the most out of the 6 and the 5 that we'll see in the game tomorrow?
Well, surprisingly enough, now I know a lot of people see J.T. Barrett as being, inconsistent, and obviously he was at times. He had great games. He's hot and cold, but I tell you, I was really happy with what I see out of Barrett. I'm sorry. He's really been sharp, throwing the ball, and a great. Everybody knew he was a great leader, but I mean, he gets the troops going, and it's kind of funny because even when he came in the meeting room the other day, the coaches would talk stuff, and all of a sudden it's like a pin could drop, and it's like E.F. Hutton's about ready to say something. I mean, everybody listens to him, and very impressive young man. And but Riley Ferguson would be from Memphis, a guy that's got a good arm strength, and he can get ball loose quickly. He's more of a slender built guy, kind of like Dowdy was here a couple of years ago. Maybe a little more accurate with a little more zip than Dowdy, and Dowdy's on the practice squad in the 53 at Miami. But I think you'd have to rate him a little bit Ferguson, better. So he may be a 6th round draft choice.
Okay, but they're both you're looking at both of these guys as 6th, 7th round draft picks, Barrett and Ferguson.
Yes.
Okay. As far as the running game. My favorite has been a guy that's been a favorite of mine since he was a freshman at Northwestern, and that's Justin Jackson. Boy, do I love this kid as a sleeper. This is one of those typical mid-round picks in the NFL at running back that I think is going to have a very good career.
Well, you'll be happy to know that everything you're thinking of this guy and seeing on him at Northwestern is true, because, boy, I tell you, what a great kid. He's back. I think his room's right down the hall from us, and he on that field, he's a great person and everything, very smart guy. And then when he gets on that field, I mean, he sticks his foot in the ground, and man, he gets north and south as quick as anybody. And then he can see that seam open up, and then he can cut back run. But I mean, his ability to make people miss and slip, and he slips tackles, and he's got all those qualities that you really like. So yeah, you're dead right on him. I think Justin Jackson is going to really be a good football player.
What would hold him back, or what does hold him back? Is it his size that basically holds him back from being even considered a higher prospect?
Yeah, I think his size, they would hold him back from being a feature guy.
Okay.
He weighed in a little bit, around 200 and just a little over 200 pounds, but he catches the ball well. He runs screens well. I mean, all that stuff. I mean, he's a very good football player all around. So, you're right. He's going to help somebody out.
All right. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Bilal Powell, to tell you the truth. I kind of like. I mean, he's got the ability to catch the ball. He's got that cutback ability, and not a big guy, but gets the job done. But hey, you know what? He's going to be around a long time in the NFL, and he's going to be a great pick because we expect him to go in the middle rounds. Any of the other running backs that you really like? I know Ralph Webb had a really good career at Vanderbilt. Chun had some injuries lately, of course, at Troy, but he was down at the Sun Belt level. And Philip Lindsay has led Colorado the last 3 years in rushing. He was 8th as far as all running backs in rushing yardage this year with over 1,400 yards. He's got 36 career touchdowns.
Yeah, I tell you what, he's a tough nut now. And here's where he measured, though. He was 5.070.
Oh,
he was shorter than advertised. But you know what? He is really a good. Goodbye, Danny. Woodhead, because this guy's going to slide right in. And, for somebody, I mean, he's a
good receiver too. Good receiver.
Tough. Caught the ball really good out of the backfield. Didn't drop one. So,
excellent.
You're right. That's what he is. So, now excited about seeing him playing on Sunday.
All right, tight ends. Did you want to throw something else in there?
Oh, yeah. No, I was just going to say, now, Chun has looked pretty good for a guy that, he missed the bowl game with that knee. He kind of had that knee that was banged up there. But I tell you, he's really looked pretty good, tackle to tackle, and he's got some power to go outside. And then a guy that I want to throw out there is, and he was really doing some good things this week with, great vision and cutting ability is just, he just really sticks his foot in the ground. Is Chase Edmonds from Fordham, but he had like 3 different injuries this year up at Fordham. He had an ankle, he had an elbow, and he had a shoulder, and he just kind of nicked up. Well, he was back to 100% and really looked good the first 3 days of practice. And then he rolled his ankle.
Oh.
That ankle that they did. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to play, but he really had a good first part of the week. I mean, he looked the part, and then Webb did what he did at Vanderbilt, looked just like that, and then Ernest Johnson, he's got to work on pass. But that's the thing about the undersized backs.
Yep.
Their pass protection is, a lot of them can't do it. But
Sure.
I will say this, that guys like Jackson, man, he sticks his nose in and he'll pop you right in the head. Okay.
Yeah.
But hey, even even Lindsey is a tough, even though he's small. I mean, he's tough, and a few times guys got launched back. Don't get me wrong, but they gave great effort, and there wasn't any cowards in the bunch. Let's put it that way.
Well, you're not going to be a 4-year starting running back at Northwestern under Pat Fitzgerald and not know how to block. So
exactly.
he's learned under some really good coaches there as well. As far as the tight end position, I know this guy nobody probably even knows. Most people probably have no idea how to pronounce his name. They have no idea who he is, but I really like Cam Serenay, the kid from Wake Forest. I mean, he actually had his best year receiving in his freshman season, which, by the way, I've noticed quite a bit on some of the guys I'm going to mention here. Guys that have actually played really better statistically in those freshman seasons. But you're talking about a tight end with 174 receptions, over a couple of thousand yards receiving. Really looked the part this year as they had that offense fine-tuned under Dave Clausen, 9 touchdowns. I just got a feeling that, this is a guy that, later on, maybe in the draft, that might be able to catch on and surprise some people.
Yeah, I know. I agree 100%. But unfortunately, he won't be able to play Saturday because he rolled his ankle.
Okay.
I think it was after Tuesday's practice, I want to say, or it was an inseam or the on his foot there a little bit, or because I was right there when he did it, and he started limping. I go, oh no, I just hope it's a cramp or something. But he
okay
is not. He's not going to play, but he did. Hey, everything you thought about him, I saw. I mean, it was. Hey, the guy caught the ball really smoothly and got up the field, and you're right. I mean, he's going to be an H-back for somebody.
Now, what about Blake Mack or any of the other tight ends? Blake Mack's kind of interesting. Sunbelt, Arkansas State. Last 2 years, he's caught 82 passes, over 1,200 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Anything about Blake Mack or any of the other tight ends that you like?
Yeah, I tell you what, Mack caught the ball really well. Andrew Ballard from Weber State, a big target. Now, he measured almost 6'6",
wow.
And but he's only about 240. But I'll tell you, he really catches the ball well, ran some good routes, and he's a good matchup with smaller linebackers because, boy, I tell you what, you throw the ball up there, and he goes after it. So that was really good. David Wells, another guy that just blocked all the time at San Diego State this past year, showed some really good hands and catching the ball down the field in passing, like I call it skeleton drill. They have a skeleton, of your secondary and things like that. But
sure.
No front guys, has back 7, but he really did a nice job of that. And then Ethan Wolf from Tennessee made some great catches yesterday, like say an off-target throw. He grabbed it from behind, and then Damon Gibson from Minnesota State. He's a guy that just kind of, we talked about earlier. He's kind of getting better and better every day, but he's just behind him because he was coached by graduate assistant at Division II team.
Yeah. Yep. All right, wide receivers. There's 3 guys I wanted to talk about, get your input on. One is one of those FCS players we mentioned before, Jake Winicki. We talked about him actually on the scouting section about a month ago. I mean, this is a guy that's got almost 300 career receptions, over 5,000 yards, and 59 touchdowns. So you got Winicky, you've got Devontae Boyd, who doesn't have any quarterbacks for 4 years to throw the ball to him, and his best year, it's interesting, his stats got a little bit worse every year. He had a really big breakout freshman year where he had 64 receptions, 973 yards. Still, he ended up with almost 200 receptions. And then you have the other receivers, Deshaun Hamilton, same thing. His best year was his freshman season under Hackenberg. He had 82 receptions for 900 yards, but he did lead Penn State with 9 touchdowns last year. So those are some guys that kind of intrigue me. What about those three guys, starting with Winicky?
Yeah, I tell you, he's looked really good in practice, and in the red zone part of practice period yesterday, he caught some touchdowns, and he can get. He's kind of and a lot of people won't remember this receiver, but Boyd Dollar, when he played with the Packers, kind of the long leg and big target guy. Like I said, he's over 6'4". He's got long arms. He caught the ball really well, and he's one of those kind of guys though. They've moved all over. He's Z on either side, or he's at wide receiver. So real smart guy but he caught the ball really well. And now the Badette kid from Oklahoma, he's been used a lot as a under short receiver and going shallow crossers and things like that. But man, he gets it when he hits the corner. He juices it up the sideline, and he really looked good there. And like you said, Boyd, for instance, the thing is, he's just real skinny. There's not many guys in the league as thin as he is, but he's got excellent quickness. He's in and out of his breaks, and he snatches that ball, and boom, he's just a really, really quick guy. And then Deshaun Hamilton is, as good as advertised, and you don't know what his ceiling is. Maybe he's hit it at Penn State, but he's been impressive this week. But I tell you, another guy that really jumped out is Darius Fountain from Northern Iowa. He is, he's a big guy. He's like 6'0", which is a little over 6'2.5", and about 212 pounds. But he is really, he's been kind of the breakout receiver here. He's really catching everything, and so he's and look for him on Saturday afternoon. And Justin Watson from Pennsylvania, he's the all-time leading Ivy League receiver, and he catches the ball really well. And then Jester Way from Pittsburgh, another big receiver. Hey, that side has got, the East has really got some big physical receivers. So I hope they show out this week.
How does Winicky compare when you break down his career, FCS career, to a guy that we talked an awful lot about last year, and then the NFL found out about him, all the fans found out about him right away, was Cooper Kupp?
That's what I've been comparing him to. He's a little taller actually than Cooper Kupp is, and he doesn't return punts like. Cooper was a regular, punt returner there at Eastern Washington, and Winicky wasn't their feature guy or anything, but he's been back there during practice, catching some. But in regards to route running and being able to play any position and things like that at receiver, he's like Kupp. I mean, he's a lot like him. You could call him a poor man's Kupp if you want to, but he's got a lot of Cooper Kupp in him.
Well, instead of hearing "coo," you can hear "key." If he depending on
right.
where he goes in the NFL this year. So we'll keep an eye on Jake Winicky for sure. Who's the best offensive line prospect that we should keep an eye on?
Well, it's been my longtime favorite, the center from Michigan State. Brian Allen is just. He's everything that we thought he would be. And I mean, you can't, this guy, he just stoned you. I mean, it's over. I mean, he just locks you up and, he can bury you right in the ground. I mean, he's a very powerful guy and really a good football player. So, he's up there as, one of the top guys. But then also a guy's come along this week and done, I think beyond a lot of other people's expectations, I expected him to be really good, but Jake Onosorgi from South Dakota State is what he does so well. He measured in just a hair over 6'2" and about 295, but he's really quick. He's got a wrestling background, and he's got great balance. And I'll tell you, the West team is loaded in the interior defensive line with explosive, quick guys like Puna Ford, P.J. Hall from Sam Houston State, James Looney from Cal, and then Blau Nichols from Delaware, he's like 6'3", 295, and he's got NFL quickness. But anyway, Jake Ornisorgi, he can handle these guys, where a lot of guys can't. Now, we haven't seen Allen. We'll see them. See if Brian can handle those guys because they're on opposite teams. So he'll get a chance to block them. But day in and day out, Jake Ornisorgi had to block those guys.
Okay.
And he was doing a great job in team and goal line and everything else. I mean, he's just been tremendous. So, and a lot of other guys can't even block him. Like in one-on-one pass rush and all that stuff. Somebody else pops in there, and they really struggle against those guys. But Jake locks them up with his hands and gets them inside, and then he's just got great balance. So he's a guy that I think is going to really surprise a lot of people.
All right. And, matter of fact, when I had interviewed Hondo Carpenter, SpartanNation.com editor for Michigan State, boy, was he super high on Brian Allen. So how high can Allen go? Can he be a second-round pick?
You know what? I don't think so. And I tell you, it's not that he isn't that caliber of talent, but what happens is you start getting in draft rooms and people say, well, his arms are just a little bit short.
Yep.
A little bit. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's
sure,
not this,
I get
it's not that. But
yep.
Hey, all he does is be a great center. So I want to say fourth round.
Okay.
And hopefully he goes in third.
All right. Now, switching to defense, one of my favorite players is Joel Lanning. One of my favorite players who's not here, who we'll talk about next week, is Leighton Vander Esch for Boise State. But Joel Lanning's another one of my favorite. How can you not love this kid? Everything that he's done for Iowa State, former quarterback, what he did to help them win that bowl game. Tough kid, played basically, I guess you could say, the Wildcat quarterback spot to help them get some big first downs and a touchdown in the bowl game. 114 tackles in his first year as a linebacker, converted from quarterback. This kid, I don't know where he's going to go, but you tell me. You have to have guys like this on your team.
Yep, because I tell you, super instinctive. He actually, he just has to, continue to improve in coverage and everything. But no, he's really good in the run. He can get to the perimeter. He's got good speed. He's just really very instinctive, getting downhill and meeting the fullback sequence on an inside play or even a mid-line type option play. He'll stuff the inside. He's really a good football player, and my guess is he's probably going to be a fourth round draft choice, fourth, fifth, somewhere. And it'll be a great on special teams, and there's nothing you don't like about the guy.
Will he fit better? What kind of scheme will he fit better at?
Well, I tell you what, they've done a lot here, which you see on Sundays. You're seeing a lot of the 4-2-5.
Okay.
Because, with a three wide out base offense, you got to have people that can cover and things like that.
Yep.
And, but he can do a good job of covering inside and understands his own concepts and all that stuff. So,
okay.
I'm guessing he's going to be a really good inside linebacker in that 4-2 type scheme, or, he can play in the 3-4 and inside linebacker. In fact, he may be best there as a will linebacker in a 3-4.
Okay. And I'm sure he's also, you get the right coach, you're going to be able to use him as a chess piece. So it's a guy, again, it's a guy that can play multiple roles. What about Javon Roland-Jones from Arkansas State, sticking with the linebackers, second in the country in sacks with 13, 42 career sacks, 64.5 career tackles for loss. How does he translate to the next level?
Well, as a pass rusher, for one thing, because he comes off that edge like a scalded dog. And like I said, that West team is really quick in the front. I talked about the interior guys, but now he's coming off the edge. And, we lost a couple offensive tackles with injury and this and that for the East. So, Jones may have a big time game out there, coming off the edge. But he's really had a good week of practice.
All right. Now, another linebacker to note is Kenny Young. He's had last 2 years 200 tackles, 17 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks. I know UCLA doesn't play much defense, but we've seen some pretty good defenders actually come out of UCLA the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's going to be another one of them. He can play in coverage, and that's one thing that when you get to see a lot of the running backs versus the linebackers and one-on-one and things like that. He's done a real nice job of just staying and running with the running backs and covering them. So, a very instinctive guy. So yes, you're correct. He's going to be on somebody's roster.
Now I mentioned Roland Jones was second in the nation in sacks. The guy who was first tied for the lead is Joe Osman. He's there from Central Michigan. He had 14 sacks, 20 and a half tackles for loss, 23 sacks combined the last 2 years. What kind of a player are we looking at there?
High motor, great effort guy. I mean, he's relentless. That's his thing because he doesn't have, a lot of length to him.
Okay.
And he doesn't have real long arms, but he's just relentless. I mean, he gets you on an edge and he can turn the corner. And I mean, he will not quit till that play is over. And if he can beat you at that first step quickness and then around the edge, he can flatten down and make a play. So, he in practice, he's gotten beat a few times, but he's also would have had some sacks. So, it's a thing where he's been consistent in his effort all week.
All right. And other guys of note, you got Kentavious Street from NC State, Chad Thomas from Miami, and Justin Lawler from SMU, who had 9.5 sacks this year. Any of those other guys up front in the front seven that I did not mention that we should be keeping an eye on that you like?
Yeah, Marcel Frazier from Missouri.
Okay.
He's another guy. Yeah, long. He's long. Everything about him is long. I mean, he's a tall guy, long arms, and he's got that explosive first step. So, and he's been very productive over his career. I think that I'm looking for big things, from him on Saturday too. And then I think that other guys, Street has been. He really can bend. Kentavious Street from North Carolina State. He can bend. He gets low. Chad Thomas, he looks like an NFL end.
Yep.
I mean, he just he's got 6'4.5" and change and 275, athletic, can run, all that business. So yeah, he's the real deal.
As far as the defensive backfield, Godwin Igwebuike out of Northwestern, 4-year career at Northwestern, where he played there, 324 tackles. He's thrown in 24 pass defense, 7 interceptions, 13 tackles for loss, and much more. We've been talking about him for the last couple of years. So what do you think about what you've seen so far up close?
Well, I tell you, I mean, he's always looking at the pass. I mean, he's one of those kind of guys that, second, third day, there was a little stud and button off, not taking the backs to the ground and stuff like that. But, I mean, he's right there to butt off the guy, and he could, show that, hey, he ain't going to buy me, if that ball's coming my way. So, I mean, he's a good size guy. I mean, like, he's, 6'1" and change and about 220 pounds. And, so he's a good size guy too, and well-built guy. So yeah, good football player. And, I expect him to do well, tomorrow night too.
How about any of the other defensive backs? You got Grant Haley from Penn State, Damon Webb from Ohio State. You've got Trey Flowers from Oklahoma State. You mentioned Faison. Any of these other DBs that you like specifically?
Oh yeah, I tell you, Trey Flowers. I mean, he's really long. I mean, Greg, I had no idea. I mean, he's over 6'3", and
wow.
He's just. I mean, he is impressive now. I mean, he's got really long arms, and the thing about him, sometimes those long or tall guys aren't as smooth as the smaller guys, but he is really smooth back there, and so he can play center field or he can play up close to the line. He's been impressive. I think Webb from Ohio State is another guy that's shown out. Tracy Walker from Louisiana Lafayette has shown some really good things. The defensive backs, Dietrich Nichols, the corners, I should say. Dietrich Nichols has had a good week. Avante Maddox, who is just an absolute beast, but he's only 5'9", but they blitzed him a lot in college, and he's good in coverage. Haley's going to be, he's going to be a nickel corner. I mean, that's what he is, and he's got a lot of short area quickness. Strollman has shown some really good things in regards to playing the ball in the air and everything. And a guy on the other side of the ball that's been very impressive. Now, he played close to the line of scrimmage and actually blitzed a lot for Arizona. But Dane Cruikshank, and this week he's been really out in space, and I wanted to see him out there more instead of real close line scrimmage. And he's really had a good week of practice, and plus he's big.
Okay.
So, and then Devontae Harris from Illinois State has been well. Hey, Malik Reeves from Villanova, keep an eye on him tomorrow night. So traditionally the East-West puts about 10 of those defensive backs in the National Football League, 10 to 12. So this group's going in too.
All right, last question, two-parter. Who is your top-rated right now offensive and defensive players in this game?
Well, I think Chad Thomas, would have to probably be the top defensive guy just simply because, hey, he's big. I mean, he's big and he's fast and he's athletic, and I think he's probably going to be a third-round guy.
Okay.
Would be my guess. And then, we could go ahead and stick with Brian Allen. But I think there's going to be a lot of fourth-round guys. It's just going to be a matter of who's going to sneak into that third round, or if somebody falls in love with somebody to get him in the second round. But there's a lot of the fourth-rounders that we talked about, but I think Brian Allen to be in there as one of the offensive guys. But one of those receivers, I can see those receivers being in there that we talked about. And hey, there's one wide receiver I didn't tell you about, but he's about almost 6'6", and he's 269, and that's he was brought in, right before we started practice. But Jordan Thomas from Mississippi State.
Okay.
He has got great body control, long arms, catches everything, and he doesn't want to be a tight end. So,
all right.
I'm sure that's what he's going to be in, or a slot. He can get in there, but he's been very impressive. So there's another little nugget for you.
Awesome. All right, Dan, I know you got to run. You got the more film to watch. No more practices. Game tomorrow. We'll talk to you next week when we got Senior Bowl talk, and also a recap of the East-West games. So I appreciate your time as always, Dan, and looking forward to talking here on this draft show all the way through to April.
You betcha. Thanks a million, Greg.
Thanks, Dan. All right, that's Dan Shanka, as we are going to talk NFL draft here on the Guide to the NFL Draft show. And this is the first one of the year. We've had the scouting section and all sorts of other shows, but this is the first of its kind for 2018. And we'll be back next week to talk the Senior Bowl. Don't forget to go to Ourlads.com. Order your subscription of the Ourlads NFL Draft Guide. That's coming real soon to a mailbox by you. And follow us on Twitter at PrimeSN. Don't forget, the NFL playoff preview show is coming up, if you're listening live, at 3:30 on Friday with Tony Mejia. Thank you for tuning in to the Ourlads Football Radio Network. We'll see you next time.